Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my December wrap-up. Happy New Year! We read 8 books. I only have 1 physically here, and the rest were a mix of audio and ebooks, so without further ado, let's get into it. The first book I read was Just Last Night by Mari McFarlane, and this is a romance, and I had very neutral thoughts about this book. I didn't know going into it that it would be a more heavy-handed romance. It was about a lot of heavy topics of grief, love, and difficult friendships and relationships, and finding out about secrets about people who have passed, and not being able to confront them about those secrets. And I don't know, I heard so many good things about this book, and while I was reading it, I don't know if it was maybe I wasn't in the right mood, but I just wasn't a fan. I did not really like the main characters. I didn't like Eve, Ed, or what was her name, Susie. I did like Justin's character, but he was like the least talked about main character in the book. You would think I would have liked it because of the topics covered, and generally I do like when books go into these types of things and go into grief, but yeah, not a fan. I gave this 3 stars. I don't know if it was me or if it was the book, but I'm going to say possibly just me and the mood I was in while reading it, because I know so many people love this book. But yeah, it's kind of put me off on reading any of her other books, but we'll see. Maybe I'll pick one up later on this year. The second book I read in December was even worse than Just Last Night, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be giving this book 2 stars. I first gave it a 2.5. Upon reflection, I'm giving it 2. And that was The Rom-Commers by Catherine Senner. And that feels so crazy to me because I loved The Bodyguard by Catherine Senner, and then reading this, I was like, what happened? I did not like the narration of this book. It felt very Hallmark, low-budget rom-com. The narration is the main character named Emma. She's like talking to you as if like she's talking to her diary, and I know that works in movies, but I just did not like that perspective in this book. Did not really enjoy Emma, and I didn't enjoy Charlie, who was the main male character love interest. I found him boring. Although Emma had some kind of real-life challenges that she had to face in the story, I don't know, I just overall wasn't a fan. I really wished I'd DNF'd this book because I really didn't like it from the start, and I just kept going thinking it would get better, and it never did. And by the end of it, I was just very frustrated that I went through the whole book reading it. I think I need some time before I go back into her books to see if I like them or not after this one, because it was a hot mess for me. The next book I read was Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borson. This was my first B.K. Borson, and I had such a good time. I am so happy. I enjoyed this book after reading 2 romances back to back that I didn't enjoy very much, and I'm giving this 4 stars. This is the perfect book to read around Christmas time because it is set on a Christmas tree farm. You have Stella, who owns the Christmas tree farm, and her best friend Luca is the main male interest. Basically gets him to fake date her so that she can win a competition. It was just great. Best friends to lovers. Such a wonderful atmosphere that was described so well. I love the side characters, and this is a series, and I'm currently on the 2nd book in the series, and I'm really liking it. So yeah, I had a great time. The only thing that annoyed me was that their communication was awful for people who said that they're best friends for like over a decade, yet they cannot communicate their feelings to each other. Didn't make sense. That part I was not a fan of because it just felt so unrealistic when it came to their relationship and friendship. But other than that, wonderful book. The next book I read was Dinner for Vampires, which is a memoir by Bethany Joy Lenz, who was on One Tree Hill. She played Haley James Scott, and I loved this. I'm giving this 5 stars. I most of the time don't ever give memoirs anything other than 5 stars because it feels weird to even rate a memoir. But this book is about her time, well, growing up, but mainly about how she was on a cult favorite TV show, One Tree Hill, while at the same time being in a real life cult that she didn't realize was a cult because of her husband. It is heavy on her time being in a cult and finding out it is a cult and getting out of it, and snippets of One Tree Hill. And even though there was not a lot about One Tree Hill, I loved it. I found it was so compelling. Her storytelling is amazing, and I listened to this as an audiobook, so it is narrated by Bethany Joy Lenz, and that is just chef's kiss. I love when authors narrate their own memoirs. Great. If you are a One Tree Hill fan, definitely pick this book up. I think you would enjoy it. Even though there's not a whole lot about One Tree Hill, I find her life is so fascinating, and if you love her character, I feel like you would just really enjoy this memoir. The next book I read was also an audiobook, and that was The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. And this feels like a fever dream when I think about it, because I listened to it in the span of 2 days, and reflecting on that book, I'm just like, oh my god, I actually read that. This book had a wonderful plot. I think it was so interesting and unique. Basically, the main character, Delphi, dies, and she goes into the afterlife, and she meets a man there who is her soulmate, quote unquote. But then he actually was not supposed to die, so they sent him back to Earth, and she begs and begs and begs a girl that's in the afterlife to send her back so that she can, bring back her soulmate. They make basically a agreement, and she goes back to Earthside, and she needs to meet the soulmate, but he does not have any memory of meeting her in the afterlife because they wipe your memory when you are sent back to Earth. So it is a really cool premise. The execution felt very convenient for Delphi with everything that goes on, but I had fun reading it. It was captivating. I was never bored reading it. It just felt like everything that happened was so convenient and like by the book, easy for her, that nothing was really shocking to me. And looking back on this, because I read it in such a short span of time, I feel like the plot and the premise of the book is very memorable, but how I feel about it is not. And so with all that being said, I'm giving this 3.5 stars. I do recommend it. I think it's a great, unique romance, but it's not a new favorite or a very memorable one in terms of the characters. The next book I read was A Novel Christmas by Charity Shane, and this is a Christmas romance. It's very Hallmarky. Basically, an author has to create a Christmas novel, and she has like writer's block, so she brings herself to like a Christmassy Santa Claus town in Indiana, I'm pretty sure, to get some inspiration for her Christmas novel. She meets a landlord that she's staying at, and sparks fly. The main character, Syra, not sure how you pronounce it, it's Saira. I really liked her. And the main male character, Dorian, he is described to be someone who is fighting grief of his wife that passed away, I think it's like 2 years ago when you're in the storyline. But it's like he's fighting this grief, he's sad, everyone wants him to like date again, but he's not ready. And then he meets her, Sarah, and suddenly the grief is gone. It just felt very unrealistically fast for me. Like the sparks flying and the grief. Although there are parts of it that are like there, he's also just like, okay, I'm ready to have a new woman again. But the Christmassy parts about the book where amazing to read around this time of year. I had a lot of fun. There was a lot of smut that I just felt was unnecessary. I was just like, again, for a lot of the book. But yeah, it was cute. It was sweet. It was a great book to read at Christmas time, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a Christmas romance, but again, not a very memorable one, and I'm giving it 3 stars, if I haven't said that already. The next book I read was The Gift of the Magi, I think that's how you say it, by O. Henry. It's a very, very, very old kind of Christmas short story about gift giving and the magic of gift giving and the lengths we go to for our loved ones. It was so short. It was like 26 pages, 25 pages. I read it all in one sitting. It was adorable. It was funny. It was ironic. It's about basically a couple that are very poor and they're trying to buy each other the best Christmas gifts possible, and you go through the lengths that they go to get those gifts. Don't want to say anything else other than that because it's so short, but it was a perfect story to read at Christmas time. I gave this 4 stars. It was so cute, and I think a great story to read to kids as well. The last book I read in December and 2024 was The 12th Week Year by Brian Moran. I'm pretty sure. I think there's 2 authors, but I only wrote Brian Moran in my reading journal. I'm giving this 4 stars. I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. I find a lot of times productivity books are very geared towards men and not towards women, because men or women are on completely different rhythms, circadian rhythms, life rhythms, hormonal rhythms, everything, and so much of our society is catered toward men and not towards women. But with reading The 12-Week Year, I feel like it is something that everyone could apply and see successful results with. I found it a very approachable way of goal setting. It's something I will try to be implementing in 2025. So I'm giving it a 4 star for, the premise, the book. I found the book was very short and to the point. We'll see. Maybe I'll bump it up to 5, depending on my experience with the actual 12-week year plan once I put it into execution. But I've heard amazing things about this type of formulation of goal setting, so we'll see how it goes. But it's basically a productivity goal setting plan mindset of viewing goals in 12-week periods rather than yearly, and there's steps on how to actually achieve those goals in your 12-week plan. Those were all the books I read in December. Crazy month again, and I also only read literally 1 book off my physical TBR, so I don't know what was going on in the month of December. It feels like December again was a blur. I don't remember living December. Let me know what you all read in December and what are some of your 2025 reading goals if you set any, and I will see you all in my next video very, very soon. Bye!